Thanks, guys. I want to welcome Mark back, and I want to welcome Bob on the drums. I think they got tired of me playing on that little box thing and brought in a real drummer. And then, of course, I want to thank Ray. I want to talk about music today, and you can tell I like talking about music, but I wanted to talk about this particular song and the songwriter who wrote this song. Anybody know who wrote this song? There you go. See, no, not Billy Winters. That's a different guy. Bill Withers wrote this song. And when I say wrote this song, one of the things that's interesting about him is that he didn't so much write songs as he dictated songs. And so Booker T, who some of you may know from Booker T and the MGs, produced his first album, and somebody called Booker T up and said, "Hey, I got this guy that I work with here at the shop," and it was like a carpenter shop, and he says, "You got to hear this guy sing. This guy just sings all day long." And so they brought in Bill Withers. Bill Withers comes in with this big book, and Booker T says, "Oh, so you want to sing something for me?" And he says, "Yeah, I'll sing something for you." And so he pulls out a sheet from this big book that he has, and he said, "So this is an original," and he starts to sing. And Booker T calls up his musicians and said, "You guys have to come down here. We're recording an album right now." And that was Bill Withers' first album that they recorded. And this song, "Lean on Me," is on that album. Anybody else know any other songs that's on that album? It Ain't No Sunshine. I'm going to ask you all the questions. Mark is like the winning quiz bowl over here. The song that he sang that day for Booker T, who was a producer, was Ain't No Sunshine. And when he sang it for him, he sang this beautiful song, and when they went back to record it, Booker T noticed something, and that is that most of the sheet was empty. Bill Withers had not finished writing that song. He just pulled it out, and he just improvised the whole song. And that was a gift that he had, is that he wasn't so much a person who wrote down lyrics as he was somebody who improvised lyrics, and he was much, much better when he was doing that. Anybody know that song, "Ain't No Sunshine When She's..." Yeah, yeah. Oh. So all the Bill Withers songs have a groove, and and the groove is, and he would describe it this way. He would say, "I need something at the beginning of the song," because when I was growing up, they would have like, how many of you used to jump rope when you were little? Yeah. How many of you used to double dutch? You know what that is? All right. So we have one double dutcher here, two. So that's like where you have two ropes going. And so you needed to like get into it, and you have to go and you get in. And if you didn't get in just right, you just messed everything up. And he used to talk about how he needed to get into things like that. And the reason is that Bill Withers grew up in a little town, I believe it was West Virginia, Slab Fork, West Virginia. And he grew up on the wrong side of the track. And by the wrong side of the track, I mean he was black, but he lived on the white side of the track. Now, as it turns out, the entire city, the little village, everybody was poor. And even though he grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, he said he didn't really experience any kind of prejudice growing up, simply because when he was little, the teacher of the town took him under his wing, and because of that, everybody in the town adopted him. And he grew up with this feeling that whenever he needed help, he would have people that he could depend on. So later on, he moves to Los Angeles, and he realizes that the way he grew up is not the way that they were in Los Angeles. And he had joined the Navy, and he had served in the service, and he then went to Los Angeles, and he was going to make it. Well, as a musician, he didn't actually record Lean on Me or any of his songs until he was 32 years old. And so we're going to get back to that sheet of paper. What Booker T realized was that he was standing up in front of him singing this song, and then he was playing this song, and there were no lyrics on the sheet, or very few lyrics on the sheet. And he had improvised the entire song. And even when they recorded the song, it still wasn't finished. So they were going to finish it later, and they never did finish it. They just released it the way it was. And so if any of you remember that song, there's a part in the song where he goes, I know. Do you remember that part? Okay. He sings I know 26 times. I know. He hadn't written the lyrics there. He meant to. He's going to put them in there. They never did put those lyrics in there. But the reason that he did it like that was that Bill Withers, when he grew up in Slab Fork, the reason that his teacher took him under his wings was because Bill Withers had a very bad stutter. And so when he starts singing I Know, what he meant to do was improvise. But they put him in a studio behind a piano, they put sheet music in front of him, and he lost his ability to improvise. And so he just stuttered. And to this day, that's the song that we have. Bill Withers was not the only musician or songwriter or performer or politician that stuttered. Anybody know anybody else? Maltillis for sure. Some of you country music fans remember Maltillis, who was famous for his stutter. But Winston Churchill was a stutterer. Our president, President Biden, he also stutters. A person that you probably would not suspect as a stutterer, but if you look it up on YouTube, you just put in Elvis Presley stutters, and you will hear a live recording. They tried never to record him talking, but way back in the 50s, they recorded him, and he becomes totally flustered, and you hear him probably for the only time stuttering. Elvis Presley was also a stutterer. One of the reasons that he joined the service was one of the same reasons Bill Withers joined the service, is that they actually paid for therapy and speech therapy to help. Both of them said it didn't really help that much. Winston Churchill stuttered. Emily Blunt is a stutterer. Samuel L. Jackson is a stutterer. And when I say stutter, I mean somebody who either has repetitions or has halting speech or is slow of speech. Anybody ever heard that phrase, slow of speech? Moses in the Bible, in fact in the Torah, it is said that his tongue was, the exact translation is that his tongue was never circumcised. That's how they explain it. But he was also a stutterer. And aside from the fact that he grew up in the Pharaoh's household and he actually was not a Hebrew speaker, he also was a stutterer. So why am I talking about stutterers today? Why am I asking you that? I'm supposed to be making this up here. I usually tell stories. And I usually tell stories about other people. And I usually, the first time I ever spoke here was 8 years ago. And over at the other Unity, probably 6 or 7 years ago. And so in all of these times that I have spoken here, you probably don't really know much about me. I usually speak about other people. And so today I wanted to speak about other people, but I wanted to speak about other people who stutter because I wanted to tell you something about myself. So I, not was, but I am a stutterer. If you want me to stutter, all you have to do is put me behind that lectern or podium, whatever you call it. And there is a thing in my brain that if you have me read and speak at the same time, I can't do it. Bob knows this joke. Is I play the drums, and somebody says, "Do you know how to make a drummer stop drumming?" Just put sheet music in front of him. That's probably a joke to most drummers, and some drummers don't even think it's funny. Most drummers don't think it's funny. I think it's hilarious because it's true about me. All you have to do to make me not do something is put sheet music in front of me or put a script in front of me or put me behind the piano or behind the podium. There's something in my brain that does not allow me to do those two functions at the same time. As it turns out, there's a lot of people who can't do that. It's one of the reasons that we have things like dyslexia and dysgraphia and dyscalculia and a lot of other words that begin with dys something or other. But what it basically means is that under certain circumstances, you can't do certain functions. So if you are a school child and you're expected to read out loud, you can't do it. If you are expected to read a speech, you can't do it. If you can do math in your head and somebody tells you to show your work on the board, you can't do it. Literally for centuries, they believed, and many people still believe, some of you might believe, that people who stutter or stammer or stop, that's what I do, I stop, are people who are not as intelligent or who have a learning disability. And while technically these things are learning disabilities, we see that with people like Bill Withers. We see that with people like Joe Biden or actors like James Earl Jones. Now, there's probably no more famous speaker and famous actor and famous person who's famous for his elocution and his ability to speak than James Earl Jones. James Earl Jones is a stutterer. And I don't mean he used to stutter and now he's been cured. When he came to Grand Rapids, my job was to go around with him. And even to this day, or to that day, because that was like 20 years ago, James Earl Jones stuttered all through his life. So what's my point here? There are things that work a certain way here. Let me show you something here. Thanks, Chuck, for letting me use this here. Does anybody know what this is? Singing bowl, yes. So I used to preach out in California, and they would have me come to this Unitarian church that became a Unitarian Universalist church. That's how long ago this was. And they had a singing bowl out front. And as a ritual for like 20 years, they began every service for 20 years. They brought the singing bowl up front, and whoever was the celebrant So the first time I was there, I started doing this, and somebody ran up and grabbed my hand and hid it. I don't know if you can hear that. Thanks, Chuck. It never occurred to anybody that there wasn't more than one way to play the singing bowl. That the only way to get sound out of it was to hit it. It didn't occur to anybody that there was a different way to do it. It's true for so many of the things in our lives. Since understanding that I stutter, we've since understood or learned, and I didn't really learn until I was 40 years old, that the reason that I stutter, and this is not everybody, but for me, was because I'm autistic. And as part of my autism, I have a short circuit in my brain that also causes OCD, and it also causes a whole bunch of other things. But the other thing that it causes is that it forces my brain to work in different ways. And so while I can't sit or stand at a podium, I can stand here and talk to you literally for days, ask some of these guys. Um, the thing is that my brain simply works a different way. And I think that this is true for everybody. So when you look at guys like Bill Withers, the thing that was his handicap, we used to say that, his disability, his learning disability, actually it was his superpower. It's what allowed him to freestyle and just make up lyrics. There are many, many rappers who stutter in real life, but when they are rapping, another part of their brain takes over. And we don't understand the brain. We don't understand how it works. I'm an artist, and I can do beautiful calligraphy. And it just looks beautiful and flows. But if you ask me to write a sentence in cursive, it looks like a 4-year-old wrote it. I have something called dysgraphia. And we don't know why the brain does that, why it's able to paint something, but it's not able to write something, because writing goes to a different part of my brain. I want to say that that makes me special. I want to say that, but it's not true. Everybody here, everybody watching at home, everybody sitting out here, all of us have some sort of a disability, some sort of an inability to do something, some sort of an obstacle or challenge. Sometimes they're permanent things, sometimes they're not. But I guarantee you that if you look back upon what those things are in your life, you will find that they created your superpowers. You will find that your gifts come from those places, from those things. And when you look at people who you think or who you believe had certain disabilities, and you think to yourself, wow, they overcame that, and they became that great thing in spite of that disability. Very often that's not the case. Very often they became that because of those disabilities. So what does that mean to us? In a moment, we're going to go into meditation, and I want you to think about ability and disability in a different way, because very often we don't know we have a disability until somebody sits us behind a drum or behind a lectern or makes us do things in a different or in a normal way, in a way that we're not used to. And we don't find out that we can't do a thing. And it used to be that if you couldn't do it the way that your teacher had you do it, like sitting at a desk or with a certain piece of paper or with your right hand or left hand, that very often having to do things differently brings up our abilities and our inabilities and our disabilities and our capabilities. All of those things are not different. They're all part and parcel of the same thing that just sort of gets sloshed around in our brains and comes out one way or the other. And so the reason I'm saying that to you is because you're going to go through, as a congregation or as two merging congregations, all kinds of different things. The places that you're going to end up won't look like this place, won't look like the other place. The people are going to be different. The way you have to do things will be different. The way they used to do things and the way you are used to doing things are not going to be the same, and you are going to have to figure out how to negotiate the changes. What are your abilities in the new place? What are your abilities with new people? What are your capabilities with a new place? What are your capabilities with new equipment or new expertise or new whatever the thing is? No matter what is going to happen, what surely is going to happen is change. And in the same way, you look at me and think, wow, how is he able to do that? I have people ask me all the time, how do you memorize all those words? And I don't. I can't explain what I do, but what I don't do is I don't memorize it and I don't read it. I do something else. And I can't explain what it is that I do. In the same way that when you move and you change and you go to a new place, it will bring out the best in you and it'll bring out the worst in you, but it will also bring out the differences. And that is where miracles lie. That is where change turns into superpowers. That is where your krypton and your superpower are actually the same thing. And I think that the difference between not realizing that and realizing that is the difference between whether or not you are going to be successful in a time of transition and a time of change or not. If you'll notice, this song, Lean on Me, becomes popular every few years. And it becomes popular for two reasons. One is the idea that during 9/11, during the war, during the civil rights movement, during all kinds of things, the sentiment of this song brings out something in people. The second reason is something I want you to think about. Nobody goes through anything alone and comes out on the other end a superhero. Bill Withers talks about the mentorship. Booker T talks about how he mentored him and takes credit for his success. Elvis talks about how he was mentored, and Joe Biden talks about how he was mentored. And the thing within this song is that Bill Withers wrote this song at a time when he realized that the people of Slab Fork, West Virginia, the people that were always there for him, the people that he could count on, were no longer there in his life. And he had to find new people to lean on. And that second part is the part I want you to meditate on today. Because the song is not just about being there to lean on somebody or having somebody lean on you, but the song is about the need, your need, my need, our need to say something, to call on people, to ask for help. And that's how the song ends. You guys want to give me a little instrumental rendition? If we close our eyes. times in my life, we all have need. We all have sorrow. Think about that. Think about the times that we're in right now. We just went through 3 years of massive change, massive isolation, massive death and sickness. And a lot of us thought it's going to be over. We don't know that for sure. What is going to happen is not as important as how we decide we're going to get through to the other side. Who are you going to call on? Who are you going to lean on? Who will you be there for? Who needs you? How is it that songs like these persevere through decades and decades? Because we sympathize with people who need things, who need us. But we also empathize with the ability and the disabilities and the things that make us need other people. Lean on me, swallow your pride. I think about that phrase because I find it really difficult to ask for help. But if you aren't able to ask for help, it makes it harder for you to help other people. And it goes in a circle, like it says in the song. I may need somebody. And right now, I'm going to help you because you may need my help or somebody's help. And so as you make this transition to this next age, to this next church, to the next lifetime, to the next job, to the next relationship, whatever it is, I want you to think about the idea that your ability to lean on other people and your ability to be there, to be leaned on, is the difference between whether or not you are going to make it and whether or not those who are also in change and transition are going to make it to the other side. Because more of us are going to make it if we lean on each other. And that includes us too. I want to thank you for your attention today. I want to thank you for having reached out to me and being here for me. And I hope that we can all call on each other, especially as we go through this period of change. Namaste. Thank you so much.